Okay, well, I'm going to spotlight myself and we will go live here. So welcome. It feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these, but I'm Manuel Aragon. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Lighthouse Runners Workshop. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm really excited. We have a great lineup tonight. Before I go into that though, I want to thank all of you. This is like the first anniversary of our Zoom events. A year ago, we did our first one with Tara Shea Nesbitt and Jose Olivares, which was really amazing. I think it gave us some confidence that we could, be successful in this virtual world. And so we thank you, everybody that has been with us, joined us for a class over the past year. It's been great to see our community grow, and we're excited about that growing community. We're also excited to someday in the near future see some of you in person. So thank you again. Our readers tonight, we're joined by Susie Q Smith, Tamika L Coleman, and Deborah Jang. And I'm going to give bios, and we're going to have them read in alphabetical order. So I will give bio before reader. So Tamika will be our first reader of the evening. Tamika L Coleman is a singer, multi-genre writer, internet nerd, and point and shoot art dabbler in Denver, Colorado. Their work explores heartbreak and healing, finding the words for our experiences, familial estrangement, being in between things, finding beauty, even during times of strife, and movement towards reconciliation. Their writings have been published in Pulp Mouth, Rigorous Magazine, Inverted Syntax, Full Stop Reviews, Heavy Feather, Lambda Literary Poetry Spotlight, Daria Art Magazine, Denver Westward, and Colorado Independent. Their debut book, An Identity Polyptych, will be published fall 2021 by the Elephants on the Salish Sea. Tamika's photography has been featured in literary magazines and local newspapers. For more information about Tamika's work, find them via their social media handle, Siren Eats Poetry. So Tamika, I'm going to spotlight you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for organizing this, Manuel. And I have 3 pieces to read for y'all. And I'll just go straight to it. This first poem is from a work in progress whose working title is I Promise I'll Remember the Good Things. And actually, Susie has something to do with that because we've had conversations writing together about how we need to remember the good things. A lot of times writing, we're processing a lot of things from the past, and this part is important too. I used to be a catalog of doubt, but now I am a catalog of hope. I used to be a green switch I pulled off a tree, but now I'm laying on a bench watching branches sway above me as the wind blows. I used to be 4 taxis, 2 airplanes, and a rented car that smoked over new mountain roads to an uncertain house whose moldering walls were not mine, but now I am a home full of books and memories and a special tea set I reserve just for company. I used to run all the time, but now I sit in the muck of it, until the muck settles and my toes leave prints at the soft mud bottom and I start to see the little fishies swimming around my ankles. I used to cry a lot, and I still cry a lot, though the crying happens for different reasons. It's not always sadness. Sometimes it's because a strange and beautiful song I've never heard before strikes me. Sometimes a baby smiling makes the whole world right, and my heart crack open to light. How can it not? I used to hope for rainbows after it rained, but now I take a walk in the drizzle, study the slants, sometimes let myself get soaked by a downpour. Like the time I rode my bike through a torrential storm I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it through, my arms, hairs bristling, and my shoes sloshing cold as I pedaled fiercely through deep puddles on the path. I prayed and I prayed the lightning wouldn't strike down, and it didn't. I pedaled and pedaled, ran my bike up the stairs and into my apartment. I went to the door to look back over the direction I'd come from. It was a sky full of dark rolling clouds. I held the railing of my porch, heart pounding, wondering if I'd do it again. Yeah, I'd do it again. This next piece is it's actually a prose piece, and it's from my book that is being published this fall. I can't even believe it. From the Elephants. It will be here in September. And the title of that is called An Identity Polyptych. This particular piece is called Sing It Like They Do in Africa. And I see an old high school friend here, Cheryl, I wanted to shout out. You may or may not recognize this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say the thing. Market woman, sailing all her goods at Kingston Market. Market woman, whoa, market woman. Mr. V, our substitute choral director, motions for the class to stop singing. He tells us how thin our sound is. We sound like a bunch of white people, he tells us. He points to me and says, sing it like they do in Africa. My brother and I are the only two brown people in this class, and I often joke that we are half magic. One time I walked in class late and saw our choir teacher showing the class how to snap on beats 2 and 4 instead of on 1 and 3 in a 4-beat bar. She explained how getting the feel of the swing was like following an egg's motion as it rolled down a hill. I remember thinking, wow, so this really happens. I watched for a while before stepping back to my seat and tried not to giggle. Some of my classmates were getting it, some of them weren't. All of them were trying so hard, though. I thought of that opening scene on the porch in The Jerk where Steve Martin's character, who was born a poor black child, can't find the beat, hard as he tries, and a later scene where he starts snapping and tapping to a swing song on the radio. He thinks he's found the rhythm. Well, he's definitely found some kind of rhythm, and he snaps and clicks his feet together on beats 1 and 3 of a 4-beat bar. Duke Ellington used to teach folks how to snap on the right beat. He'd exaggerate a snap to emulate the pulse of the swing, pulling the poised snap upwards on 1 and letting the whole hand drop to snap on 2. It was a conductor's move, and he had a lecture to go along with it. Of course, one never snaps one's fingers on the beat. It's considered aggressive. You don't push it, you just let it fall. Then he'd look across the audience and let them know what cool sounded like. And if you would like to be conservatively hip, he says, tilt the earlobe. And if you're cooler than that, then of course you tilt the left earlobe on the beat and snap the finger on the afterbeat. And then you really don't care. And so one can become as cool as one wishes to be. I'm not sure if I'm cool or not. You know, I'm half magic. Even if I can snap and tap. But I don't know a ding dang about Africa. I did see The Power of One, and I listened to the official soundtrack for a week. I think about the deep open timbre of the African voices singing in that film, and I try to emulate it. Mr. V is encouraging and asks me to do it again. He wants me to give it more oomph. I sing my best market woman, only louder this time. Mr. V tells me it's better, but I should give it one more go. I take a deep breath to start, trying not to make a face. I sing so much my mouth, my chest, and teeth tingle. Mr. V is satisfied and tells everyone in the room to do it just like that. I have one more piece, thank you. I have one more piece, and this is from a book I just sent out. I've been working on it a real long time. It's about love stuff, and I'm really annoyed that I've written about this shit. But like, I think it's important, right? Love stories are important, and eventually, by the end of the book, I hope that it feels that love poems are collaborative, because I feel like most love poems we write are pretty one-sided. But if we're really telling the truth, all love poems are collaborative. And this is the poem that starts my book right now, until and if the editor likes it and decides they want to keep it. And it's called Extinction Level Event, or You Might Be a Poet. If you lay in the grass with me and turn your head level, you can see the soft slopes of this park overlapping, like the tides of the sea held mid-movement, like breaths stopped for viewing, a breath stopped for viewing. Our eyes on the land as the birds fly over, and the trees whose leaved capillaries rustle skyward into the blue, such blue, until the clouds go gray and rain soon. The branches, dried fingers now, what's left, crumbling, thirsty in their end life, thirsty on the desert prairie. Let's watch, let our eyes go soft, our lungs too, hot with the sting of nothing lasting, let them go soft. My cheek is on the grass, imagining you are again my lover. I yearn for you, lover. I imagine you were with me when I became a new gardener. 3 inches of roots dug down through grubs and worms when I was a new gardener. When the sun shone through to rich soil and burned my cheeks. When my hands went deep and I got my knees and elbows dirty. You brought the gold sheet from your bed, faded now, the one you bought saying I would look lovely in gold. Less rest, you say, and you lay it out. But when I look in your eyes, you can no longer look in my eyes. Turn away, you say, and I do, laying in your arms, missing you, looking at the soft waves of this park, feeling you kiss my shoulders and neck bones, and I compressing, wishing for roots like trees. Your hands clasp mine, you press into me. The waves are rolling and the grass is cooling. The sun is warming and the sparrows dip down towards the weeds. Keep holding my hand. Let's walk through them, their flight, our passing through. I want to show you one last joy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamika. I see a number of claps.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry.
No problem. Our next reader, we're joined by Deborah Jang. Deborah is a visual artist and poet whose creative work is rooted in her perspective as a woman of color and who writes with compassion for a world in crisis. Her debut poetry collection, Float True, was published in March 2020 by Shanti Arts LLC. Her sculptural work can be found in collections regionally and nationally. Deborah?
Hi. This is a bright moment for me to be reading alongside these 2 fine poet friends. And so thank you, Manuel and Lighthouse, for the inclusion. It's true that Float True was released a year ago in March, pretty much in lockstep with the rollout of the coronavirus. Both Susie and Tamika have been kind and supportive in helping amplify the book through this kind of strange year. And during the hours of isolation, I started fiddling around with some multimedia apps, and I wanted to produce little short video productions around some of the poems in Float True. And I wanted these to be somewhat collaborative as a good way of connecting with other humans during that time or this time. Tamika was the first good sport, and they composed and sung an amazing musical expression of my poem from Float True called Everything is Everything. And then I created a video collage around that. So I wanted to share that piece with you. And then also to follow up on that with a second video from Float True. It's a piece called Tell Me. Mainly consists of questions, many that are experienced by refugees and immigrants and asylum seekers. Some of the questions are directly lifted from transcripts from interviews that my grandparents had during their detention on Angel Island. And for this little video production, I had the collaborators, Joel, Marcia, and Delia to help with the narration. So Manuel will, he's gonna play these 2 pieces. And then I'll come back and read a couple poems and then finish up with one more video. So thank you, Manuel. It's Everything is Everything and Tell Me.
The sheer fast before us in subtle undulation shrugs, in the hunch where shoulders rise, where vague mists poses wise. Here the ponder strokes the mind while earth's crust warms saddled feet. How sky weeps softly broken, where doves fully woken sing through long nights, through cold wet springs. Everything is everything. Everything is everything.
Writing a will.
Tell me, after last night's storm subsided, releasing musk from wetted wood and tremors from beyond, in which room now, where windows rattled, from which far corner's highest rafter does the nightingale sing?
Where does the water come from for domestic use in your husband's village? How were you conveyed to your husband's village for your wedding? Was there any music accompanying you? Was there a feast held before your wedding? How high was your husband's house? In which direction did the front door of your husband's house face?
Past village gate the way grows thick with enigmatic confrontations. Tongue-twisting pronunciations distort the mouth, wince the eye, test the matrix of survival. If you cast your gaze out further, does hope brighten or grow dimmer? Where does the nightingale land?
What is your final destination in the United States? Can you recite the 10 Commandments? What color is the Bible? Where did you last go on vacation with your husband? Why did you want to leave your home country? Do you fear going back to your home country? If yes, why?
Where is it written one path suffices? In whose truth does love abide? From which well, how far deep? In whose name do we keep hope breathing its own light?
How old were you when your mother came to the U.S.? Have you ever been tortured in your home country? When? Where? Do you believe you will be tortured if returned to your home country? Could you move to a different part of your country and be safe?
Step into the dusty footprint. Send armadas out to sea. Feed a weary caravan. Keep the children free and strong. The blessed light grows dim. Open hearts, doors will follow. Souls on ice join hands to shore. Questions beg of lifelines seeking. Where do I end and you begin?
Okay, thanks. And then I'll read a couple from a new collection. This one's called Ode to Yellow. You're from the yellow race, ain't ya? The small whiskered man at the feed store seemed proud of his perception. A box to neatly put me in, a color-coded novelty, othered in our difference, set aside for reference, or generally ignored, or treated as an enemy, we the yellow peril, or denounced repeatedly as global viral blame. Autumn bursts bright yellow, splendor screams, vibrance keens, an earnest pigmentation before winter's bleak, quaking aspen, honey locust, river birch, beech, me, fellow yellow hangers on. Hello world, we're here. And this one is also from the new collection. It is, it's the title piece. It's called Last Will and Best Guesses. Last Will and Best Guesses. To you stirred by soul-bared scribbles spread eagle on cool pages. To you whose ears hum up the brainstem at finger-poppin' nitty-gritty ushered out prophetic mouths resounding mind to mind. To you who tend to wander lost in aftermaths and ruminations. To you who cringe at mystery. To you who tolerated me. To you who walked on by. I leave a sack of syllables, chewed on and delivered, sitting at your doorstep, basking soft in sun. I leave words unspoken, boatloads brimming in the bay, not for lack of caring, but like the shy and shiny wish before you blow the candles out. I leave a fading shadow, a shuffled footprint, a trinket here and there, nothing much to speak of in the way of fortune's matter. I leave you to the truth of you, lodge deep, let it flow. I leave regrets. Please bury them at the bottom of the sea, where they can feed on the dregs of possibility, barnacled and broken, rising free from yesterdays. I leave configurations, dimensions of both hand and heart, a lifetime's co-creation. If and when you think of me, I am best digested, settled into cozy corners. Let the sun glance off your shoulder. Let whatever words attend you meet the wild woe. I leave you gently so. And then the last video I want to share is my most recent little collaboration, and it's with Susie, where we share what you might call our respective meditations on mortality. We kind of alternate our verses and our voices. Susie's poem is Writing a Will, and mine is called Hereby. And so Susie will be on after the video ends, and I'll share a link where if you want to see other of these little video productions, you're welcome to check them out. And I think Manuel has shared a link to my page on bookshop.org where you can order Float True if you'd like. But here we are with Writing a Will and Hereby.
Writing a will is less romantic than planning a funeral or hypothetically scattering ashes with each sweep of the broom.
Of sound mind and body whole, in perpetuity for now, hereby stuttered out in whispers lest the sorrows overbear, for too many, rudely taken by disease, neglect, or gun, through this passage of brute blunder, absence riddles endless seasons.
It is brick and mortar legacy. Optimism feels like a lie, and hostages are dreamers swallowing cannonballs in chest.
Here the moment meets the morbid, while body bags line freezer trucks. At the brink of all that matters, by the twilight, let us gather either side of the river, tangle tears by cool waters, walk among them.
A will is a plan for the worst case scenario. Not nearly as fun as a zombie survival guide or apocalyptic conspiracy theories. A legal statement for what to do when what ifs have been exhausted. It is hard to write when heartbeats feel like they are counting down.
Wash the feet of heroes fallen, dry the eyes of caged children, bend a knee for lifetimes shattered, muffled, howling, hoarse to heaven, clutching earth, change forever.
I should have written this when I was well. It would have been funnier then.
Thank you, Deborah. That was amazing. We are just in awe of your poems and just this video work. That was amazing.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for coming.
Our final reader this evening, Susie Q Smith, is an artist, activist, and educator who hails from Denver, Colorado. She is the author of 2 collections of poems. A Gospel of Bones is available from Alternating Current Press, and her second collection, Poems for the End of the World, will be available from Finishing Line Press in June 2021. Her chapbook collection, 13 Descansos, was published by Penmanship Books in 2015. Susie co-wrote the dramatic productions How I Got Over, Journeys in Verse, produced by Off Center at the Denver Center for Performing Arts in 2016, and Where We Are From, Freedom is a Constant Struggle, produced by 5280 Arts Co-op in 2018. Susie?
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you, Lighthouse, for hosting us tonight. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you, Deborah and Tamika, for your poems. And also, I kind of wish I had gone first because now I'm all choked up. I'm like, what? I have to read poems now? I just want to, can we just hang out and cry? I don't know. I thought that might be the we were going to hang out tonight. It's very nice to see so many of you. I want to like scroll through and just say hi to everyone, but I'm also this kind of person. I'm just like them. So really, really happy to see all of you, but I will not go on and on. Saying hello to each of you individually, even though I want to, because that's who I am and I'm a dork. But hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming tonight. So I'm Suzi Q Smith, and I write poems, and I'm going to read you a few of them. So this is A Gospel of Bones right here. And I thought I would read the the acknowledgement, well, not the acknowledgements because that's pretty long, but just the brief introduction, dedication to start us out. So this book is dedicated to my ancestors and my descendants, to my daughter, my mother, my grandmother, my siblings, to my aunties, my uncles, my cousins, to my friends, to my loves, to Park Hill and the East Side, to the church choir, to the praise team, to my grandmother's piano, to Colorado Boulevard, to how I got over and I've come too far to turn around, to where could I go, to this joy that I found, to the verses who have opened into homes, to the gospel of and in my bones. So that's a little bit about what this book is for, and who it's for. And so I'm going to read us a little bit. I do this all the time, in which I decide what I'm going to read and then I change my mind. So thank you for bearing with me as I do that, because I change my mind frequently about what it's going to get read. But I thought that I would start with Bones. Well, no, I think I don't want to. That was the plan, guys. I was going to start with Bones, and now I don't want to. What I would rather do is, I told myself I wasn't going to read any sonnets tonight, but I'm going to read some sonnets tonight. So that's what's happening. And I won't apologize. They're my jam, but I'm not going to read the whole crown because that would take a very long time. And so I'll just read a little bit, a few of the sonnets. And so I'll start with 8, which is called Middle Age Might As Well Be Paradise. When love is our only home and a mudslide too, we dance and drown and bury ourselves in fistfuls. Melvin got shot while driving his El Camino on the same afternoon as my bridal shower. He survived, was still a groomsman in our wedding. Tariq didn't get his tux in time, but he still came to the reception looking clean as ever. A few years later, he was killed at his front door. Russ is skinny, but the cancer's in remission. Maybe it was prayer, or maybe the chicken broth his belly almost looks like a place I once knew. Dear God, I love seeing men I have loved get old and grouchy, complain about new trends in hip hop. Yes, I love the sweet silver whiskers in your beards. 9, future single mother. Yes, I love the sweet silver whiskers in your beards and the topographical map of my own body. This storyteller belly remembers and tells how we became and unbecame a family, pinpoints the moment I learned she was here. I was 19 and afraid of all the ways I would fail her, so I said yes when he asked me to be his wife. An uncharted territory we pioneered, now marked in our dimmer skin, rising and falling, this crevice between my brows divorcing my face. When I packed our daughter's tiny clothes quietly, no one applauded the grace of my departure, spoke north and south of our unkeyed journey, though once we were so in love we watered our hope with sweat. 10, I hope the building is haunted. We were so in love then, we watered our hope with sweat. The summer of 99, we were freshly married. My ankles swole, belly full of dreams and our daughter. Remember Mr. Cousins owned the East Side back then, when it was all still black, but the vultures were perching. We ran the 715, my husband pouring drinks while I traded him kisses for my jambalaya. Everybody's auntie was in there, watching, winking. The jukebox hadn't changed since the 70s, back when people believed in a love like ours, before money set the whole hood ablaze to disremember us well, and the 715 opened with a polished face. You can still see Zona's tamales in its grimace at a red light among the ruins of the East Side. 11, I still go to the DMV on the East Side. When stopped at a red light among the ruins of the East Side, you went to Manual. And I said, nah, dismiss this as a half-attempted holler till I saw and knew his face now grown. I said, Gove, huh? And smiled. He said, that's right, I knew you. We nodded affirmations, recognized the haunted pause, and do you remember all the people that we used to know? People disappear so quiet, leave us talking to ourselves. We say, nah, I just saw him, when we learn about a new death or sentence. What kind of a war is this, refusing its own name? Our names bleed into the headlines. What constitutes a war crime? So far, I haven't murdered anyone. Praise the Lord 2 times. Hey sis, you keeping it up, he said when pulled up at the light. A lot of us from Gove ain't really looking good, you know? I howl and the tombstones in my teeth quiver. I know you right. And I'll move on from the sonnets because I'll stay there all night. So I want to make sure that I mix it up a little bit and give us some variants. And that's from A Gospel of Bones. And now I'll read Bones. 1. You can keep your timid dreams, short breath panting, mediocre with fear. Tremble becomes a walk, a gate. Gate yourself safely, but do not ask me to stay. 2. I am wild as spring. Fire that makes glass can melt it also. Bridges can be cages too. Let them all burn with old mirrors and doorknobs. You ever notice how they call it a rope burn? How binding rips into simple flesh and divorces the skin? 3. I have set fire to every photograph of every lover. Maybe that is too far, lover. Temporary as tampon, sterile in their regard, bleached as memory. This is how I cut the stain of you. Rusted, unsightly fabric, stitched the hole left in my sheets, in my panties, until only a clean seam or scar reminds me that something happened there once, when I was reminded to be humble, when I was taught to be polite, when I was raised to be a Christian, all forgiveness and long suffering, when I was beaten into being a good girl, the best girl, a girl that cuts her tongue from her mouth and folds it into a quiet bouquet of blood. 4. I was married once. I said I do and meant it, left my skeleton at the altar and shape-shifted into a beautiful apology. 1 year after the wedding, to the day, my gallbladder exploded inside my body. My gut was trying to form new bones from the waste. What a tragic way to love my fear more than myself. I have not done it since. Loved, or should we call it suicide, the way I buried my own name in an unmarked grave in some winter where the ground will not yield for anything less than a hurricane's unearthing howl. 5. This is where I live, I say. This is my name, I say. These are the bones that belong to me. Some of them are yours. So that is Bones. And I thought maybe I was going to break it up with something a little more gentle. But the truth is, if you know me at all, I don't really do gentle. So actually, that's not true. There are some very, very gentle poems and poems for the end of the world. This next piece is called Mustangs. And in the tradition that Tamika's established this evening, we're singing tonight. So this one references a few songs that you may recognize. I've been really trying, baby, trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And if you feel like I feel, baby, come on. Oh, come on. Ooh. Janice Hunter was a 17-year-old high school student when 34-year-old Marvin Gaye crooned her open. When you type Janice Hunter into Wikipedia, it forcibly redirects to Marvin Gaye's page. When you Google Janice Hunter, the first result is the headline, Marvin Gaye's wife reveals how he tortured her. She still speaks of loving him. Does she still have a name? Lori Maddox was a 15-year-old virgin when 27-year-old David Bowie groomed her wide open for Jimmy Page to follow, then Mick Jagger, who sang to her of wild horses, and of course, young girls are Mustangs, from the Spanish mustango, meaning ownerless beasts. Mustangs have no natural predators, but the men who catch and break them. Childhood living is easy to do. To break a wild horse, first, you must gain its trust. Sing to it. Call it pretty until you mount. Get the reins on quickly. Wild beasts must be controlled from the head. Give it a new name, something easy for you to say, like baby. She will forget she ever owned the wind. I was 13 when the first man boy tried to tell me he loved me. He was 20. I pretended not to hear him and hung up. I was 15 when the second man boy tried to tell me he loved me. He was 20. I pretended not to hear him and hung up. I was 16 when the third man boy tried to tell me he loved me. He was much older than 20. I pretended not to hear him and hung up. And how they loved me. Called me muse, watching me playful in open fields. Fame makes a man take things over. Called me quiet, teasing with handfuls of oats. Fame, what you want is in the limo. Called me beautiful until I stopped kicking. Called me theirs, called it love. Is it any wonder, say, There's nothing wrong with me loving you. There's nothing wrong with me loving you. There's nothing wrong with me loving you. Say it like a mantra until it feels true, until the saddle feels like skin, until the yoke feels like religion. There's nothing wrong with me loving you. Does love mean to lasso a feral mare? Does love ride bareback and call itself quick? Does love mean to harness the thunder in my hips until it all feels yours? Does love always catch around the throat or is a bit in the mouth like so? The first time I told a man I loved him, I coughed up a rusted chain and a collar, traced it with my tongue and found my own name already engraved there, just below my mother's. Wild, wild horses, we'll ride them someday. So that's a little bit about Mustangs and how I feel about those moments. I wrote that when my daughter was 17 and definitely feeling feelings. I'll read one more, maybe a short one. Maybe we should just get into a Q&A. I feel like we could do that too, because I would love to like kind of just hang out and chat with the other poets as well, and give us a little time. I know we only have about 15 minutes left. What do you think, Manuel? Are we going to do a Q&A?
Yeah, if you want to do one more, and then we can do the Q&A right after that.
Okay.
I see so many heads nodding for one more, so.
Okay. All right. We're gonna get into it because this is the page we're on. Okay. This poem is called Sweetback. When Chris Dorner trained his gun on the LAPD, when he released a manifesto addressed to America, subject, last resort, we knew it was clearly a suicide note. I take no joy in the blood on his hands, nor his burnt body, but it comes as no great shock that some policemen look like overseers, even now. So yes, when he quoted D.H. Lawrence, I never saw a wild thing feel sorry for itself. I wanted to tell him to run. Not because he was innocent, but even the foreshadow of defeat is enough to awaken the adrenaline when your bones remember the burning. I wanted to tell him to run, not for himself, nor his own iron hands, but for Fred Hampton and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and Amadou Diallo and Troy Davis and Trayvon Martin and Paul Childs and Ramarley Graham and Sean Bell and Oscar Grant and Rakia Boyd and Timothy Stansbury and Orlando Barlow and Aaron Campbell and Victor Steen and Stephen Washington and Alonzo Ashley and Wendell Allen and Ayanna Jones and Ronald Madison and Marvin Booker and James Brissett and John Crawford III and Eric Garner and Barbara Dawson and Mike Brown and Tamir Rice and Walter Scott and Cameron Tillman and Eric Harris and Sandra Bland and Alton Sterling and Philando Castile and Alva Brazil and so many more names that I will never know. And I did not know any of these people, but damned if they couldn't have all been my family. And I know they say it's not a war, but damned if I don't feel like an insurgent sometimes. And no, I have never killed anyone, but have long since admitted that I could. I mean, America, you got big guns. I ain't scared though, not with this working womb. America, you thought the Black Panther free breakfast program was scary. You ain't met me yet. We've been through a lot, America. I think that now for every one of our children you allow to be murdered, I will make two, with brothers gully as they come, all grit and swagger and knuckle and earth and gleam, beards all unapologizing, brothers who won't smile at you, brothers who ain't never been afraid of you, brothers who smell just like the sun. We will raise our babies together like militia ticking. We will detonate them on your college campuses, at your job, in your neighborhood. We will suck up all the financial aid. We will teach Fred Hampton in the classrooms until his blood can stop screaming. You don't want it with we, America. We, Black mothers, are angry as ever, are fertile as ever, and unafraid of our children. I'm not leaving America. We will take over the schools and send your daughters home smiling like Patty Hearst, America. You feeling me now? You feeling me now? I might even have your babies, America. They will be Black too. America, this is a war. America, I will send my sons to all your corners. You will be needing their light. America, this is no manifesto. This is a love poem. Making love is the only way I know how to save you. Your hatred and fear are a cancer. Your teeth are rotting from your head. America, now is the time to call on whatever God you pray to. Give thanks for my brilliant sons. Yes, there will be sons, Black sons, and we will call them all Jamal and Rakim, and we will love them. We will love them. We're not dying, America. We will live forever. Thank you.
If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. First, I just want to thank you all for joining us to read tonight. It was amazing, and I just feel so lucky that you all came to share with us. I'll ask the first question. I'm curious about, especially for all of you, you make art in multiple art forms. And how do you, so whether that's singing or video, how do you know where your pieces are supposed to live?
I think I can answer a little bit of that. Because I think I've always sort of been accused of not being a poet. In what I always thought I was writing poems, and then some places they would say, well, that sounds more like lyrics, or that sounds more like rapping, or it sounds more like this, you know, and then you go like to like a hip hop venue and they're like, that sounds more like poetry. And it's like, whatever. Eventually I just learned that none of those rules mattered to me. And so I'm just going to make whatever I want to make. I used to like really specifically define as a poet, which of course I still do, but it's an artist I think kind of encompasses, because I'm going to just use whatever I have. You know, I joke about my last name being Smith as a maker of things, right? You know, and so like, I'm going to be making something with myself all the time, and that's going to come out however it comes out. And like, it's kind of also like, there's an explosion of excess of emotion. Clearly I'm an emotional person. And so, it's going to have to go somewhere. So if one path is closed to me, then it's going to go like out of another path. And I think that's part of like the process, and probably why many of us are multidisciplinary artists, because we come across obstacles and we're like, well, this story is going to get created somehow.
Thanks, Susie. Deborah, Tamika?
I'd say that when it comes to using words, for me, that need to be more explicit, then maybe the writing is where it manifests. But that's hard to say. I think of it all as one big experiment, and and especially during the lockdowns, I just kind of I felt like I was just piling on project after project for myself, just to just using the time to explore different media, and so I don't think that answers your question, but oh well.
I think for me, I'm just generally all over the place, and words aren't sufficient for so many things. I started, I mean, really, that's it, and I think that's my answer. Words aren't sufficient, so I think it's important to explore like every sense if you have access to it. You know, draw, dance, move, listen to music, and like writing, obviously. So all of those things. Try a new instrument, you know, like because it's all experience. We have to live first and also stretch and experience in our bodies to be able to express it.
Thank you all for sharing. I think, so my next question is, you know, so Susie, you have 2 collections coming out this year. Deborah, your collection came out right before or right on the cusp of quarantine. And Tamika, you have a collection coming out this fall. And I'm curious, you know, you can't predict the timing of like your release and all of those things. And so I'm curious if you'd kind of share your path to publication, and, you know, like, so Susie, how you end up with 2 collections, and a matter of months. And yeah, if all of you would be able to share that kind of your path to getting your work published and with our audience.
It starts with tears. Rejection's a healthy part of the process, and also, you know, I think that we were all probably pretty impacted by the pandemic, and so of course the book that, you know, A Gospel of Bones was initially meant to come out last year, but of course everything was delayed and slowed way down, and so now I have a set of twins, which was not the plan, but that's part of why that happened. This book was severely delayed, so that's part of it. But it was many years of trying to place these poems with the right home and a collection. I was really focused on having a collection placed, when before I'd been mostly just trying to get pieces placed, and then I was finally like really committed to having a collection, a full-length collection placed. So it's already a slow process with a lot of rejection, but then with a full manuscript it's even slower, and so it's a lot of crying. But definitely like look at who you're reading, and look at their presses, and kind of decide who you want to work with and who's worth that weight and level of grief.
I think that's amazing advice, and the tears is correct. I was editing my book today, this little thing. I wanted to hold it in my hand to see what it might feel like, and there's also the process of agreeing and disagreeing with your editors, and it's really important to trust yourself on a lot of stuff. I always say I started this in my MFA a few years ago, but there are poems in here that are like 12, 15 years old. I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time. And honestly, before the elephants got back to me, I was about to chalk it. I was about to give up. And the night that I was feeling all of that, they wrote me, and it was quite a surprise. There's a lot shaved off of this book. And so there are some things I'm thinking about for other projects in it. And it's just like that thing of being everywhere. Like, I mean, to me, this book is old news. I'm working on other stuff. And so like, it's such a good question, Manuel. And it's also like such a hard one, because I think, you know, when I started writing or started calling myself a writer, I always thought there was like this clear-cut path. And my experience has been that there isn't. And I think it's just, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't give up, and I'm glad someone wanted to publish my book.
Thanks, Tamika. Deborah?
Yeah, I think that, I really consider myself pretty much a novice at this publication effort. So when the first book came out, it was like, oh, that's nice. But then the timing happened, and I don't know, you just throw your hands up or throw the book up and let it fall where it lands. And then I didn't know if I would put together another collection, and something else has come together. I have a tentative chapbook coming up with another publisher. So it's a mystery. It's a mystery to me, and I just kind of follow along, bumbling.
Can we tell them, Deborah?
What's that?
That you and I are almost label mates?
Yes, yes.
Our next books are going to be on the same press.
Finishing line press. So yeah, well, we'll just see where it goes. At this point, I really it's all a crapshoot.
Well, thank you all. I want to ask, we have one final question, and this is Deborah for, let's see. I asked Deborah, are words going through your head when you make sculptures? I've always considered them lyrical as well as narrative.
Oh, Michelle. Oh, thanks for asking that, I think. No, no. Sometimes titles are popping up as I'm doing the physical work, but it is, there generally isn't a narrative to the sculptural work. It's more of a collaging of various pieces of life, my life, others' lives, from past, present, and I would say that any kind of narrative that comes up, I try to fit into the title of the piece. But yeah, I don't do that while I'm working. Thanks for asking. Michelle is also a great artist and a poet.
Can I add one thing just about the process too, in like creating? Lighthouse was really helpful for me in writing this book and also the new one. A lot of these manuscripts were conceived during Lit Fest taking advanced workshops, right? So this, with the Gospel of Bones, I was in workshop with Terrence Hayes. The next book is much sweeter because it was started with Ross Gay. You know, so a lot of those poems were started. So I also just want to acknowledge that and thank them for that work, because that's where just being able to be in a space where you're really just dedicated to hanging out with your writing and taking it really seriously made a huge difference for me in my writing life, of just kind of carving out that space. So whatever that looks like for any of you, right? Just carving out some kind of space where you are like deeply focused on your writing in a way that people take it seriously along with you. It makes a huge, huge difference.
That's well said, Susie. I know Susie has another reading to get to, and I just want to thank all of you for joining us. Susie pointed this out in the chat. The four of us were part of the first Writing in Color retreat that Lighthouse put together, and what an amazing, I feel that the three of you are so talented that maybe I should just unspotlight myself, because I'm just lucky to be associated with the three of you. And so thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your poetry and your thoughts, your voices. This was wonderful.
Thank you all for bringing us together, and thank you for your poems, guys, and for making me cry. It's good for me, and the moon is nearly full. Here we are. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you.